Donuts! Who doesn't love donuts? Well, unless you're a donut phobic. Well, now you have a game where you deliver donuts to people, but these donuts are a little different. As instead of getting the hand-sized sugar frosted delights, you get a hole that gets bigger the more it devours, and it will eventually devour its customers. I can see the common stick. This game first started out as Kashina, and it had a different premise that was more based off North American mythology, but over time was changed because the creator thought the story wasn't strong enough. So now we have a game about a raccoon that destroys an entire town, with a hole that leads to the center of the earth. And weirdly, nobody is dead from the temperature or impact. With this game having a weird premise, I'm going to find out the good, the bad, and the furry moments of Donut County. Our story takes place with our two main characters, Mira and BK, as we see them stuck down a hole along with other people that got stuck down there as well, as we progress from person to person as they explain their experience of how they got down there to begin with. As they each order a donut from the new donut shop, but not only did they end up getting devoured by a hole, but also their home and belongings. We also find out that the hole was being controlled by BK, as he acts like this is completely not his fault, and it's their fault for getting stuck down here to begin with. And the reason why he's been doing all this is to get a camera drone. And I think there are other ways to get one besides destroying an entire town. Or are donut shops really that cheap when it comes to paying employees? So each character talks about his or her story, as Mira tries to think of a way to escape this hole, as well as help everyone else get out as well. Alright, I talked about the story, now it's time to talk about the good. The gameplay. Just like how everyone else describes it, it's a reverse Katamari, where you collect items and eventually people so you can become bigger to devour even larger items. You start with tiny things like rocks or clumps of paper, but as you devour bigger things like homes and buildings the more you grow. Even the thing you need to devour doesn't go through your hole yet, it just comes out until you get the right size for it, and then you can devour it. I'm glad the developer did that for each object, so that way you wouldn't get stuck and have to restart the whole level. Some people say it's a puzzle game, and yeah, I can see that. Like one part where you try to devour a giant carrot, but it gets stuck in the hole, therefore you have to lead a rabbit out of its fence so it can eat the carrot, so that the hole can be open and you can devour the two rabbits. Another example I can think of is with the fireworks maker. You need to devour his house, but there's nothing on left on the ground to devour. Then you notice the fireworks coming out of his shop as each one is ignited. You can devour the fireworks so they can shoot out your hole. Then you notice these seagulls that you can try testing out on so you can devour them. But that isn't enough. That's when the camera pans to this woman on the cliff having a picnic, which I don't think is a very safe place to be on, but hey, what do I know. And you can use the same tactic you did for the seagulls on that woman on the cliff so you can devour her and eventually devour the fireworks factory. I love that the developer did this so that way each level doesn't feel repetitive. As for the puzzles, there's very little messing up for each one you come across, if at all. But personally, I see it more as a destruction game. Bringing in new game mechanics. Halfway through the game, you get a catapult for your hole where you devour a specific item and you have to use it in order to progress through the level, for example flipping switches. One level I can think of is where a honey collector named Bearclaw is stuck on a tree and you can't get him down because he's too heavy. You can devour a frog for your catapult and try getting him down that way, but he's too heavy for the frog. But you do see these other insects and you can use a frog to devour them so that way he can get even bigger and heavier. Then you can devour Bearclaw once you eat enough bugs. And eventually his home and belongings, all that jazz. I do like this catapult idea, as it's a nice change of pace when it comes to playing the game. It's humor. Well, not only to see what chaos you can create with this hole, but also with each cutscene and the conversations that the characters have with one another. Each conversation that they have with each other is silly and enjoyable. Sometimes the jokes fall flat, but other times I found myself laughing. Also what BK writes in his Trashpedia for each object is pretty funny to read. When you complete the level, you have a chance to look at the Trashpedia to see what you add to your collection. Each object has a description in a jokey manner, and when I read these, I always think it's something that BK is writing down. The writing on these objects that you collected are something that you see on Reddit, or something meme related that you see on Discord. And each one did bring a chuckle to me. Alright, I talked about the good, now it's time to talk about the bad. The game is too pricey. This is a $13 game and only lasts for 2 hours with very low replay value. And there probably are some other games that are like this as well. And with the short gameplay time brings me to my next negative point. The game is too short. Personally, I see this both as a good and a bad thing, and let's start off with the bad. With a game that's only $13, you expect it to be a little bit longer than 2 hours. We could have had more levels that spread out of Donut County, like instead of devouring houses, we could have played as a whole in a town-like level, and devoured some stores along the way, and some of the statues that could be clever references to the ones in LA. But on the other hand, I wasn't unsatisfied when I finished the whole game, because I felt like it was the right amount of levels the developer gave us. It would have felt repetitive if you just copy and pasted the same levels over and over and over again. And that's basically all I found. I mean, there were some minor nitpicks, like the sudden boss fight and the rushed ending. But since this whole game's based on nothing but silliness just like the Katamari series, I just figured that it's just play for laughs, don't try to take it too seriously. Now that we got through the bad, here are the furry moments of the game. As for design, we do have a cast of anthropomorphic characters, such as Coco the alligator, Jellybean the rabbit, Possum the... Possum, this lovely wombat couple, and a whole bunch of raccoons, with the one standing out BK and the Trash King. Since all the raccoons are the same model, I felt like it was a good move for the developer to put this on these two characters to make them stand out from one another. But to be fair, there are some other characters that look similar from one another, but you can make the argument that unlike the raccoons, they're just different animal breeds. I just don't know which one. As for other characters, we have gooses on mopeds, depressed cat chefs, mouses in tiny cars, and coyotes in tents who reveal to have really nice business suits. For the characters who aren't anthropomorphic animals, we of course have Mira, some weird green dude, and these two twins that ran on time to make a reference out of them. As for other animals, we have snakes, pugs, geckos, sad chickens, rabbits making love, disgusting cockroaches, giant pet frogs.
Oh, no, not the bees! Not the bees!
Besides the raccoons, each character has a look to their own and stands out from one another, both those who are anthropomorphic animals and not. They're all created in a low poly style, almost equivalent to what the Animal Crossing characters look like, and I love the design for these characters. They each stick out and don't have the design that feels lazy. I think the one I like the most out of all of them is Possum's look. The black hoodie with the pale white fur. Seriously, this character is something I would see in Night of the Woods. That also could be said for some other characters, as I'm sure each person who played this game has their own favorite character as well. As for behavior, we have a game where there are some anthropomorphic characters that act like animals and others who don't act animal-like. We do get that with the raccoons as they take, eat, and have piles of trash. But as for other anthropomorphic characters, they just act like people. The only exceptions I found was with the dog family Potter and Pup, who bark sometimes, and I guess Possum who lives in a dark broken house, which I guess well actual possums as well as rodents would live in, but he doesn't do anything possum related. Maybe we could have expanded more of this with the other characters, like I have Coco instead of sleeping on a chair, he could be sleeping in a float in the pool, something almost alligator-like. Or maybe the cat chef eating gross things that a cat would normally eat and act like nothing's wrong with his food. What we got isn't bad, I just want a little bit more animalistic references or behavior out of these characters. As for world, it's basically like our world just with humans living alongside anthropomorphic animals. Not only is this place set in LA, but we do see Hollywood as well as the Griffith Observatory, which is described as... well... yeah. Overall, it's anthropomorphic characters living in the modern day world alongside with humans. Okay, I'm gonna be talking about the end of the game, so if you want to skip, just go right here. So after each character is done talking about how they got down the hole, Mira decides to think of a plan to try to confront the Trash King, who's in charge of all the donut shops that the raccoons run, and stop him from making more holes and give everyone's homes and belongings back. BK and Possum also come along, so he can help take down the Trash King as well. They do make it to where the Trash King lives, as BK tries calling him, but they get no response. So they go with Possum's plan. Hack into the building and destroy everything from the inside and force them to get back their homes and belongings. Because when all else fails, just stoop to terrorism. He eventually calls BK and invites him in, so he can try to convince him to join him and betray his friends. And it looks like that he totally did it. Wow, what a traitorous... Oh wait, he didn't. Wow, you really surprised me. You really got me there. Like, I didn't see that coming, like, at all. As we move to the only boss fight with the Trash King, as you destroy everything that he has. Once his home is gone, he decides to stop the donut shops as well as get back everyone's homes and belongings. We also see that Coyote is the new manager of the donut shops, where he plans to give out the actual donuts that everyone loves. By the way, donuts. Now time for my overall score. On the game score, I give this a 4 out of 5. On one hand it's short, but on the other hand has the right amount of levels for the player to experience on his first time. As for the furry score, I give this a 4 out of 5. While there are some anthropomorphic animals, there are some that aren't completely anthropomorphic or don't act more animal-like than they should have. Nevertheless, we do get a good cast of anthropomorphic characters, and in the end, I don't only found this to be a good furry game, but just a good game in general. The gameplay is enjoyable, and the characters are fun to watch. I also forgot to mention that the music's fun to listen to, both being relaxing and, well... You may not like it, but I think it fits the whole game. There are some things that are a little out of nowhere, like the rush ending in the sudden boss fight. I do think you'll still have a fun time playing this. Just get this game on a sale because $13 for a 2-hour game is a little too pricey. I'm Lurkrit, and this has been Furry Game Reviews. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time!